the Evergreen Media Network Studios, brought to you by Evergreen Media, creating cohesive marketing campaigns. Evergreen Media in Vero Beach.
Treasure Coast Connector, connecting residents and businesses of the Treasure Coast. And here's your host, Ellen Contreras.
Welcome to Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras. Treasure Coast Connector is the talk show and online community where we put a spotlight on interesting local businesses and resources, then connect them to you, the consumers in the community. Everyone has an interesting story of why they do what they do. When we learn about what's happening in our own backyard and support local businesses, it strengthens our local economy. For details on the show, links to discounts, promos, past interviews, check out www.tcconnector.com. Today's episode of Treasure Coast Connector is going to be very special because we are going to be talking about sustainability, and I'm talking about water reclamation, aeroponics, hydroponics, renewable energy, things that are practical, cost-effective, and protective of our ecosystem. Joining me in the studio today is Jason Conklin, and he is the founder of Argo Sciences. Jason's background is diverse, so I'm going to read it off. He has his bachelor's in biosphere, sustainability, and human interoperability from Metropolitan State University of Minnesota. He worked at Raytheon as an operations engineer involved in aerospace intelligence, and Jason was also a marine science technician and intelligence specialist in the U.S. Coast Guard. He's here to talk about all of the innovative programs that Argo Sciences has to offer. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Ellen.
Okay, I'm glad I got that out, okay, and I'm glad that you are a fast talker because we have so much to cover. So the very first question I wanted to ask you, before you started Argo Sciences, what drove you to study biosphere sustainability?
The short version. Okay, so joining the Coast Guard, I did a TED Talk on this, ironically, about what I went in for and what it turned out to be. I love the ocean, number one. I love marine science. It was fun. It was fascinating to me. And I have a background there when I did that, going into the Coast Guard originally as a marine science study as a major. I learned about hazardous material operations, but how that involved bioremediation. Then I went into meteorology and climatology, studying the polar ice caps. Then I went to the same platforms that collect our weather data are the same ones we use to collect intelligence. And then my career path took me into the intelligence specialist field. And then from there, as a civilian, I'm a disabled veteran, so I went over to the civilian side. Raytheon hired me on the spot and said, come on in. And I was able to do operations there where I learned all my orbitology and those things. So all the time, learning all of those things, compiling all those massive amounts of classes together, I was able to produce this degree. And I was able to apply to Metro State. They had a program that allowed me to apply all that and use it accordingly. So it was a natural progression of things.
And that is wonderful. And thank you for your service. We really appreciate that. So now I want to talk about water reclamation because what you offer in this area is very unique because I learned something about water retention ponds from you that made me go, ick. And that's a very technical term, Cindy. Ick. Okay. And so I'd love for you to explain what you mean by water reclamation as it relates to the services you offer and what makes it so different.
So one of the areas that I actually stumbled into, well, first let me explain. Argo Sciences, I decided to take all my R&D work in the aerospace field that I did for a private firm originally out of Denver and apply that to the commercial sector because I realized all the stuff we're doing for these lunar habitats and Mars and everything can be applied here on Earth. And they can be applied in a way that's going to help us be sustainable around our environment. It's like, if we can replicate Earth's environment on Mars, why can't we fix the one we have here?
That would be nice.
It would make perfect sense to me. I'm like, this should be pretty easy. We've got it, clearly it's been around for long enough for us to learn and study it. So in looking at water reclamation, one of the biggest challenges we have here in Indian River County anyway, is all of this runoff going into our lagoon.
Yes.
Throwing off the balance of things, bringing all these things like fertilizers, pesticides and so forth, Roundup and everything out of our yards. It's obviously not meant to be there. And when learning about what's happening with Lake Okeechobee, the same issue, it's phosphates coming off of the land, nitrogen phosphates.
Icky chemicals.
Well, yeah, they're great for great for things like algae. Algae loves them.
Okay, yeah.
But you and I don't want to swim in that.
No.
And neither do most fish, So why is that happening? When all our civil engineering is designed to flush out water from the cities, it's engineered around preventing flooding. Whereas that bypasses the natural process of water raining inland, going from a stream to a creek to a river, and then there's churning involved. There's other bacteria that get involved. There's mosquitoes there. There's fish. They eat the mosquitoes. There's a whole process the ecosystem does depend on this that cleans the water. So when it gets to the lagoon, that algae bloom is not possible because the food's not there for it. Our systems bypass all that. With the level of development you have along the Florida coast, especially, it's just huge. I mean, there's so much of this is paved now. All that water flushes right out without going through those processes. So it goes right into the lagoon as is, carrying everything with it, from oil from your cars to the runoff from your fertilizer for your lawn. Everyone likes a nice green lawn. So that's what's bad. In water reclamation systems that I came across Atlantis, who has this flow cell, and what it's doing is replicating that aeration process that would happen inland. So that by the time the water gets out, all of the nitrogen phosphate has been aerated off. Air turbidity is lowered tremendously, almost to the level that's even better than what it would go through a natural process to do. And then by the time it gets out to the lagoon, if it needs to go to the lagoon, there's another part to that, then it's clean and safe for the only thing you're going to throw off is you're going to desalinate it. You'll go to brackish water from salt, but the saline will renew itself automatically. Okay. The other advantage to water reclamation is if you have a subdivision, there's no reason. The reason that water, again, is flowing off is because of permeable pavement that we put on. This circumvents that as well because you're not collecting the water on the spot. Right. In situ, so it's not even flowing off your property. It's going through your driveway right underneath into a reclaimed pond that's buried below the ground. And again, this is not expensive to do per se, as long as it's done, before the house is built. That can then contain all that water for you. You can use that to irrigate your lawn. You can use that to it's potable. It's to an extent that you can actually use it for washing your clothes, cooking, and so forth. Oh, wow! And then without even touching a well, without needing an aquifer or getting city water full of chloramine and whatever chemicals they shove in to sterilize it. So tremendous advantage there. And then none of your water is running off your property, barring an obscene event like a hurricane. In general, all the water that's collected there stays there. And then nothing's going in the lagoon at all.
Yeah, so I really want people that are working for our local government, all different levels, of different chapters of our local governments, economic development people, the home builders, the landscape architects. I really want them to pay attention to this episode. So that's why I wanted to cover all of this. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is people have heard about hydroponics, but then you mentioned aeroponics, and I had no idea what that was. So I'd really love for you to now talk about this service that you offer, because it's good for residential applications, commercial, urban, and so on. It's like tremendous. So what is this?
So hydroponics is just what it sounds like, growing food with water. And that's been around. We've heard about it for the longest time. It's not new. It goes back to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which there should be intuitive in and of itself, because I think about it, if they could grow food in the desert in Babylon 6,000 years ago, why we can't fix that here? It's great to have your food isolated from your environment, because Florida is hard to grow in. By isolating it in this manner, it circumvents the need for all the pesticides. It's definitely organic. It's very, very clean. It's very efficient, and it's fast. And then you can also make it vertical, so you can take advantage of your vertical space in a smaller footprint to grow more food and have it decentralized as well. So hydroponic is a variant of that. Aeroponics is another one, which is the same thing as hydroponics, except you're not using a grow medium. The roots are dangling inside of an enclosed chamber, and that allows the plant to focus on the stalk more than anything, so it gives you better fruit. And that's the same way they do it on the space station, because you don't have, obviously, organic matter to work with. Things like, usually they would use some kind of a gravel or a coconut core or something like that that's very inert, but that's got some renewable value to it, but of course you can't use that on the moon. No. Now, or Mars for that matter. You can't do hydroponics and just use the local soil or whatever that we call it, regolith. In the aerospace community, it's just basically inert, useless dirt, but it has no nutritional value, but you're adding the water in to do it that way. Now, the advantage of these aeroponics versus hydroponics, and there's also aqua, which incorporates the fish aspect, is you're taking advantage of your vertical space, but then you can also grow many more things that are not vulnerable to soil contamination, like nematodes and things that we have in the soil here that are not good for plants, that make it hard for them to grow if they can grow at all, just because it's very, very hard climate, or hard environment. Then when it gets to aquaponics, you're taking advantage of the ammonia the fish give off, as opposed it's a misnomer. It's not their fecal, their poop or whatever that's being saved there. Okay. It's actually the ammonia they give off that goes into the plants. It's a phosphate, and actually a form of nitrogen, if you will, that they're going to use, and that goes into the plants. The plants suck that up and they use it very, very well. And in turn, you're growing back the fish food. And then you can compost the actual the harder matter gets settled to the bottom, and you collect that after the fact. But there's these are all based on what space you have to work with, where you can do this. It's a completely closed system, so you're able to sustain very well, and you get your protein source because the fish is very clean meat to eat. Oh, absolutely, and we do have some aquaculture here, on the Treasure Coast that I am aware of.
And so now, and again, I just want people to understand that there are different applications for this. So the homeowner can have something within their home indoors. They can also have it outdoors. And then there's even some restaurants that you spoke about. And then, of course, there's Kelly Jackson. Kelly Jackson is a big fan, and it's Indian River Pioneer Farms. And so she can't wait to get this underway because she has 2 acres. And she was explaining, and she showed me this beautiful layout rendering that a landscape architect did for her. So I was super impressed with that. And the output that she will have from her 2 acres is incredible.
It is. I love the example she's setting up there because it is the potential of it. It will be a nice demonstration of what you can do with a small amount of space. 2 acres goes a long way, especially with the hoop houses. Create a very inexpensive greenhouse that you can use. And then if you're using the vertical, she can pump out mass volumes of produce. To give you an idea, or just to give a tangible perspective, one tower would host about 7 feet tall, would produce 30 to 50 pounds of tomatoes per month.
Wow.
That's one. And then in her case, she has the commercial size tower. They're a little bit taller. And she has right on site currently is 12. I know she plans to expand that as time goes on with that. But you can think about that to give you an idea of the volume you can achieve with a small amount of space. For a home residential system, you probably use 3 of the smaller towers, and that would do a family of 5 indefinitely for for just keeping that going on your patio or your screen porch or whatever you have.
Yeah, even Lisa Meyer's Cafe Latte Da in Sebastian, because she has a lot of things that she uses, leafy greens in a lot of her shakes and smoothies and salads and sandwiches. So she's really excited. It looks really nice in her place.
She was an ideal candidate for the home tower model that's there because she's using a lot of microgreens, the parsley, cilantro, and those things that are small, and she consumes them. Because it's a restaurant, it's moving them pretty fast. Yeah. The advantage of those in aeroponics is they grow like grass. The faster you cut it, the faster and thicker it comes in. You just keep going and going and going, and we'll keep on going for indefinitely as long as it's maintained and clipped.
Yeah, and it definitely pays for itself over time. All of the services that you offer. I know we are going to take a break, but we have a lot more to discuss. To talk with Jason Conklin of Argo Sciences. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's time to call Easy Brew Coffee and Bottled Water Service and learn just how much you can save and how convenient it is to have your coffee and bottled water delivered right to your home or office. In addition to water coolers, Easy Brew offers individual bottles of water in 8 or 16-ounce bottles. No more lugging it home or dragging it into the office. Serving the Treasure Coast for over 2 decades, 2 letters, 1 simple name. Easy for Easy Brew. Visit e-zbrew.com or call 800-792-3285. Easy Brew.
Revive Vero Beach, located next to Anytime Fitness on Oslo Road and 27th Avenue, has everything you need to look and feel your best, including hormone replacement therapy, stem cell therapy, sexual wellness, weight loss, laser aesthetics, hair, tattoo, and skin spot removal, Botox and fillers, cryotherapy, comprehensive blood work, and everybody's favorite ozone and IV therapy. Refresh, renew, and revitalize yourself at Revive today. Call 772-492-6607. A member of the iTex trading community. Your iTex dollars are welcome.
iTex, or International Trade Exchange, is the largest barter company in the world with over 25,000 members offering goods and services. We're a marketing company that brings you new business in the way of trade, with over 200 local members enjoying the benefits of iTex, like lawyers, doctors, plumbers, media, printing, and more.
Hi, this is Liz Bowler. Contact me and find out why barter through iTex has been smarter for over 30 years. 772-532-1881. Visit itex.com.
Hi, it's Leah Waldo's. The dreaded heat is finally gone. This is a great time of year to head to Waldo's for lunch or dinner under the stars. Mix that in with awesome local and touring entertainment, and you have the makings of a great day. Don't forget, Waldo's Happy Hour from 4 to 7, 7 days a week. So come join us at Waldo's, located in the historic Driftwood Resort on Vero's Beach.
Welcome back to Treasure Coast Connector. I'm your host, Ellen Contreras, and I just got, we have a new commercial running, and I thought it was super pretty, but Jason Conklin of Argo Sciences, we're going to dive right back into this conversation and talk about now renewable energy. It's a hot topic, makes people roll their eyes, but what do you want to say about that? Because this is your passion.
Well, it is. It's a loaded topic because, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of things that we call greenwashing, where they're saying, well, this is a green development or this is green because it's environmentally friendly in this manner. And I went to the green development that I was put. I won't say which one it is because it's inappropriate, but I went to this green development. And the only thing green about it was the grass. And I said, okay, well, whereas, they had some solar panels, but they were feeding back into the grid. But I looked at the end, it was actually carbon positive. It actually made more carbon footprint to do that initially than it was to get the carbon neutrality back out of it. I thought, okay, well, this is kind of a waste. Yeah. So my company sits in, we tackle a problem, at all facets, especially when it comes to how much energy do you need? How are you using it? Because the manner in which we consume energy is a huge factor. Not everything needs 110 volts or 220. A lot of things can run on 12 volts or even less than that. USB, for example, is a great versatility for that. You can have most lights in your home actually running on USB if you really wanted to. There's a lot of small stuff that doesn't need to draw so much power because everything's retrofitted to an existing grid. One example, I had a client, Keep Our Beautiful, or I have a client, I should say, who is part of the greater umbrella of Keep America Beautiful. There's a state level and a local level. They had a situation where they were going to run a composting site, but it was off grid. It was not economically viable for them, being a nonprofit, to bring in Florida Power and Lights power because they had to put utility poles in, transformers, and so on. It was prohibitive. Their power needs were very, very minimal because they were running aeration for the composting they were doing, and then they just needed to get wet. Well, water pumps can use a lot of power. So I said, okay, how do we do this? And then batteries are the most expensive avenue. I got designed. I sat down with my engineer, and I said, okay, let's figure this out. They're going to take in so many kilowatt hours per day. How many panels is that? And then we figure out what their peak usage is throughout the day. What if we have a cloudy period? And then we only need to keep a few batteries charged for them to do minimal stuff through the night because they're only going to run LED lights. And then to circumvent the need for mass amounts of water pumps, which consumes a lot of power, we used gravity feed. So now the thing can run 24/7 without the sun, and as long as the gravity tank is full, which that runs as soon as the sun comes up. You can fill the tank throughout the day. And then the water reclamation there was also integral. So collecting the water in at a surface level point, which is just a tank on the ground, the sun would come up, the pump would fill the elevated tank above the land, and then they would run gravity feed through the night and would carry them forward. So if you're essentially moving batteries from physical, storage batteries for power to the potential energy of having gravity feed your water that way. So it's an alternative to that. So there's different ways to circumvent the manner in which we store energy and how we use it. Okay, well, wonderful. Okay, so now, because I just want to make sure we have so much to talk about, I want to get through to everything. So walk us through the process of what it is like to work with you. So, and you know what, before we do that, give your phone number and your website, please, for everybody that's listening on iHeartRadio and the podcasts. Okay, our website is argosciences.com. Argo, just like the Argonauts, Jason the Argonauts, so that's kind of where that name came from. ARGO. Yep. And then sciencesplural.com. Okay. And then if you want to reach me, it's jason at argosciences.com, so real easy. And our number is 772-360-1811. And when you call me or us, whoever answers the phone, we do an assessment, of course. How can we help you? Naturally. Let's look at your situation, then look at your challenge. Where do you want to get to? What's your goal? And then we find a way to do that practically and then also sustainably. So how's this going to happen? How's it going to function long term? Okay. And then what's going to make it, if you're a business-to-business customer, for example, what's your ROI going to look like? We do the best to work with your ROI to make sure that we can prognosticate the future as within reason and then get you from point A to point B at minimal cost. Okay. So that you're appreciating that right away. Well, that is wonderful because there are so many groups of people that I would even love to introduce you to. So like I was saying to you before, the Economic Development Council in St. Lucie County, Peter Tesh, Candy Marlowe, I'm sure that they would love to learn more about you, as well as Helene Castletine of the Economic Development Council here in Indian River County. I'm going to email you guys, so just watch your inbox. And then, of course, there's, like Dan from Madame E. Homes. He was on this show. So like all of these major developers of properties where they want to be green and sustainable, they need to hear about you, landscape architects. So, and it's Jason C. Is it not Jason C? Jason at argosciences.com. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And then it's argosciences.com for the website. Okay, so now Cindy actually had a good question. I just want to make sure that people understand when it goes to the growing of the food
aeroponically, hydroponically, that the nutrients, that these are nutrient-dense foods.
They are more nutrient-dense than you get out of any farm today. Well, the organic may be the only exception, but even that becomes somewhat lesser, only because the focus of the stalk and the crop is directly on filling itself. It doesn't have to fight. The roots don't have to fight to do anything. Okay. So all that energy goes into the plant. So it's much more nutrient-rich and nutrient-dense.
Mm-hmm. And then, so another application too is like we have a lot of malls that are either underutilized now, half empty, or they're completely abandoned. And you have some really nice ideas for malls as well. So did you want to just quickly?
Sure. I mean, I just find if I can find it, somebody who owns a mall they want to do something different with, make it an indoor oasis. I mean, you feel like you're going for a walk through the rainforest in Brazil in Akron, Ohio. Mm-hmm. It would be remarkable and very doable. And the space is already built for that. That's what an indoor farm would need. That level of Class A space under roof with a climate control mechanism already in place, and that's already done there. Mm-hmm. So a fantastic repurposing and then addressing things like food deserts quickly in an urban area.
Oh, please, that was the other thing. Yeah,
that would definitely do that, because you're talking about bringing a massive farm, and think of it a 1-to-10 ratio, whatever the footprint of that mall is. Multiply by 10 in the acreage, that would tell you how much food you're going to get out of that space, and diverse beyond anything you could have, because there's nothing you can't grow. Literally nothing you can't grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also people who here that I know that I mentioned before the show that are sitting on more than an acre of property. And a lot of it is just they love having the space, but then they're finding ways to use their property where they're getting tax breaks and incentives and ag, like they're classified as ag and things. So there might be somebody sitting on an acre of property that would love to have an outdoor garden, so to speak, and maybe can supply or rent it out to people that want to rent from them to grow for restaurants and,
For high volume options, a greenhouse, of course, is always the best. Some people that's a huge upfront capital. However, a food forest is also very approachable, very affordable, and that's sustainable because it's low maintenance, extreme low maintenance. But no matter what happens, you walk out back, you've got food, and everything's literally cut and what they call chop and drop. So you're allowing there's ground cover, aesthetically pleasing, but at the same time clean, but sustaining the nutrient in the soil and keeping it well fertilized. And then you always have trees in your backyard that are producing fruit. You've always got fruiting plants that are around that will grow well in Florida in this environment here. They'll grow in other places as well. But since we're here locally, I speak to that. There's a tremendous value because it's sustainable without you doing a whole lot of work. Other than go out there and eat once in a while. Kind of like Adam and Eve, just go and get some fruit whenever you're hungry.
Yep, I love that idea. And then the other thing too is, and of course, that's the thing. We were talking about local, but you are happy to get on a plane and travel the world, right? Argo Sciences is not just Florida. It's not just the United States.
Done work in Southern Africa. I've also been in mainland Europe and outside of Prague. We've run a satellite office out of there for a while. What the advantage there is traveling is that you learning different ecosystems around the world allows for like diversity of analysis. So when I was in Botswana, for example, one thing I noticed with sustainable energy, the need for the USB power came out of there. How these structures are primitive compared to our standards, and I thought, well, how easy would it be to small solar panel, light the place up, give them Raspberry Pi computers and low voltage monitors. Kids can go to school, the parents can do e-commerce, and everything's running good. And you light up a house at night. I know that sounds petty to us here in the West.
It's everything.
Catapults them forward in productivity beyond what many would even take or even understand. So when the sun goes down, they can keep on living, and very minimal cost.
I love that. So, and we have like about 30 seconds, but I just want to say you got 10 seconds to tell me about bugs and critters, because Cindy wants to know. She wants the whole thing to grow.
One.
Yeah.
In a backyard one?
Yeah.
The plants balance that out and keep them away. No mosquitoes.
Okay.
And no squirrels.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And you know what? And if you want more information, you're just going to have to call Jason directly. So thank you so much for being on this show, because I've been like wiggling in my seat, because this is an amazing, we all need this, and it's so scalable for residential, commercial, and so much. And it just starts with a phone call to get the questions answered, to learn about somebody's proposed project. And that's all that it takes. So thank you very much for being on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for everyone that's listening and watching, my name is Ellen Contreras, host of Treasure Coast Connector. I hope everyone has a safe, wonderful, productive week. And until next week, I miss you already.